James Crawford's hands wouldn't stop shaking. He stood in the doorway of his walk-in freezer at 1:03 a.m., watching his head of security kneel beside a chest freezer James had never seen before. David Kane's face had gone the color of old paper. "Boss," David said quietly, pulling his hand away from the opened lid. "You need to call 911. "What is it?" But James already knew from the way David's voice had changed. From the way the air in the freezer suddenly felt too cold, too thick. "Just call them. Now." James pulled out his phone, but his fingers wouldn't cooperate. Behind David, he could see into the chest freezer. White packages, carefully labeled, and through a tear in the plastic, something that looked like a human hand. "Oh God," James whispered. This was his house. His kitchen. His freezer. And for 3 years, this had been here, 20 feet beneath where he ate breakfast every morning. David stood up, already pulling out his own phone. "This is David Kane, badge 4782. I need police and forensics at 1847, Broadmoor Drive East immediately. Multiple victims, possible homicide. Multiple victims. Multiple." James's vision tunneled. His chef's face flashed through his mind, Rachel Morrison, with her quiet efficiency and her red-rimmed eyes. Rachel, who cried in this kitchen every night between 11 and midnight. Now he understood why. But when he turned to find her, to demand answers, Rachel was gone. Her suite was empty. Her phone sat charging on the dresser. She'd vanished into the night, and James realized with growing horror that he had no idea who Rachel Morrison really was, or what she'd done. Hey there, thriller lovers. Welcome back to another heart-pounding story that will keep you glued to your screen. Before we dive into today's chilling tale, drop a comment below and let me know. Where are you watching from? I love seeing our global community come together for these stories. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button because you're about to experience a psychological crime thriller that will have you questioning everything you think you know about trust. Now let's get into the story, but I'm warning you, this one has twists you won't see coming. James hadn't noticed the crying until his head of security mentioned it. "Your chef's having a rough time," David Kane said, leaning against James's office doorframe. 20-year police veteran, 5 years as James's security chief. Solid. Reliable. Saw her in the kitchen last night, pretty torn up. James looked up from his monitors. "Rachel? She seems fine. Check your security footage. 11:30 p.m., every night this week." David shrugged. "Might want to make sure she's okay. Good chefs are hard to find." After David left, James pulled up the kitchen camera. He scrolled back to 11:30 p.m. the previous night. Rachel stood at the island, face buried in her hands, body shaking with sobs. James watched 3 more nights. Same time. Same desperate crying. On the 4th night, she held a photograph, pressing it to her lips, whispering words the camera couldn't catch. Something twisted in James's chest. He employed 14 people on his estate. He knew their salaries, not their lives. That's how he'd operated since the divorce, clean boundaries, professional distance. But this felt different. He pulled up Rachel's file. Age 34. Michelin-starred background. Emergency contact, none listed. None. That was odd. James searched her name online. Sparse results, cooking competitions, food blog interviews. Then an article from 4 years ago. Local mother desperate for information on missing daughter. The photo showed a younger Rachel standing beside a little girl with dark curls and a gap-toothed smile. Rachel Morrison holds a photo of her daughter Emma, 8, who disappeared from a Portland playground on March 15th. Police say they have no leads. Emma Morrison. Missing 4 years. Case went cold within weeks. 1 year later, Rachel applied to work for him. James looked at his phone. 11:27 p.m. In 6 minutes, Rachel would appear. This time, he wouldn't watch through a screen. At 11:33 p.m., Rachel entered the kitchen. James stood in the darkened hallway, heart pounding. This was an invasion of privacy. He should leave. But something David said nagged at him. "You're too isolated. You don't see what's happening in your own house." Rachel collapsed against the counter, sobbing. Raw, broken sounds that seemed to tear through her. James stepped into the light. "Rachel?" She spun so fast she knocked over a cutting board. "Mr. Crawford. I know about your daughter." The color drained from her face. Her hands trembled. "I saw an article. From 4 years ago. Emma. I'm so sorry." Rachel stood slowly. "If you'll excuse me." "Rachel, if you need help." "Please, Mr. Crawford." Her voice cracked. "Please don't ask me about this." She walked out, head high, shoulders rigid. That night, the kitchen stayed empty at 11:30. And the next night. And the next. For 3 days, Rachel moved through the house like a ghost. Avoided eye contact. Barely spoke. On the 4th day, David knocked again. Hey, noticed anything weird with Rachel? James looked up. Weird how? Jumpy. I came around a corner yesterday, and she nearly jumped out of her skin. And she's been in the kitchen at odd hours. 2 a.m. last night. David frowned. Also, that walk-in freezer's been making noise. Compressor issue, probably. James felt something cold settle in his stomach. What kind of noise? Grinding sound. I'll get someone to check it. No. Let me talk to Rachel first. David studied him. Sure, boss. After he left, James sat very still. Rachel going to the kitchen at 2 a.m. The freezer making noise. That night, at 11:45 p.m., his phone lit up. Motion detected kitchen. James opened the app. Rachel stood at the island, tears streaming, clutching that photograph. He didn't debate. He went downstairs. Rachel? She spun, and this time she didn't hide the photo. It fell, landing face up at his feet. A little girl with dark curls and a gap-toothed smile stared up at him. Mr. Crawford, please, Rachel's voice broke. Please just go back to bed. What's happening? He moved closer. The bruises on her wrists were visible now. Yellow and purple. Rachel, tell me. Nothing is happening. I just miss my daughter. Where is she? Rachel's face crumpled. I don't know. You don't know or you can't tell me? She backed up, hip hitting the counter. It's not your concern. Someone's hurting you. The bruises. No one is hurting me. Then why do you cry here every night? Why do you look terrified? I don't. I've been watching for 3 weeks. So tell me what's happening, or I'm calling the police right now. Rachel's eyes went wide. No. You can't call the police. Why not? Because he'll know. He'll know I told someone and he'll. She pressed her hands to her face. I can't. I'm sorry. She ran. James pulled out his phone and called David. I need you in the kitchen. Now. David appeared 3 minutes later, alert despite the hour. He listened as James explained everything. The crying, the photograph, the bruises, Rachel's terror at the mention of police. David's expression went from concern to grim. You're sure about the bruises? Fingerprints. Both wrists. David pulled out his phone, scrolling through logs. She hasn't had visitors in 8 months. No one comes, no one goes. He paused. Actually, that's weird. She never lets grocery deliveries come to the kitchen. Always meets them at the service entrance. Carries everything herself. I offered to help once. She nearly bit my head off. James felt that cold feeling again. Why would she do that? Maybe she doesn't want anyone in the kitchen. David's eyes sharpened. Or maybe she doesn't want anyone to see what's in the kitchen. They looked at each other. The freezer, James said. David pulled open the walk-in freezer door. Cold air billowed out. The interior was organized and pristine, except for the chest freezer in the back corner. The one with the cheap padlock that didn't belong. David went very still. Boss, when did you buy that? I didn't. Then where did it come from? David pulled out a multi-tool. James, go back to the kitchen. What? No. If there's something in here you don't want to see, you don't want to be the one who finds it. I've been doing this 25 years. I know what a bad scene looks like. His voice was cop-firm. Go. James went. He stood at the island, hands braced against marble, and listened to the soft sounds of David working the lock. Metal against metal. A sharp crack. Then, oh Jesus Christ. James ran. David was backing out, hand pressed to his mouth, face the color of old paper. Stop. Don't. But James was already past him, already looking. White packages. Plastic wrapped. Carefully labeled with dates and numbers. And through a tear in one package, a human hand, frozen mid-gesture, fingers curled. James staggered backward. The floor tilted. David was on his phone. This is David Kane, badge 4782. I need police and forensics at 1847, Broadmoor Drive East immediately. Multiple victims, possible homicide. Multiple victims. Multiple. James's vision narrowed. Rachel's voice echoed. I couldn't stop him. He has Emma. James. David's hand on his shoulder. The police are coming. They'll have questions. The first one, where is Rachel Morrison? I don't know. Then we need to find her before they do. Because right now she's either a victim or a suspect. They found Rachel's suite empty. Bed made, closet full, purse on the dresser. Phone charging. She hadn't packed. Hadn't taken anything. She was still in the house. James checked the garage, all vehicles present. David searched the grounds, nothing. But James knew where she was. He ran back to the kitchen. Rachel sat on the floor, back against the island, arms wrapped around her knees, rocking slowly. Rachel. She looked up with eyes that had given up. He took her, she whispered. 4 years ago he took my Emma. Said if I told anyone, he'd kill her. Said if I went to police, she'd disappear forever. Said as long as I did what he wanted, she'd stay alive. James's heart stopped. Who? Who do you think? Who has access to this house? Who knows everything that happens here? Her laugh was broken glass. Your head of security, David Kane. He's been using your estate as his burial ground. Made me help him. From behind James, a voice spoke. Calm. Professional. Well, I guess we're done pretending. James turned. David stood in the doorway, hand resting on his gun. He looked at Rachel with disappointment. 3 years without a problem, Rachel. Why fall apart now? You killed another one, Rachel's voice shook. Last week. I heard her screaming. She wasn't cooperating. David's hand tightened on his gun. What was I supposed to do? Let her go. Rachel surged to her feet. You promised Emma would be safe. And she is. As long as you remember your place. He pulled out his gun. But now you've told James. That's a problem. James couldn't breathe. This was David. David, who he'd trusted for 5 years. David, who'd been a cop for 20 years. The police are coming, James managed. No, James. I didn't call them. David held up his phone, showing a fake call interface. I knew this was coming. Rachel's been getting sloppy. Emotional. Only a matter of time. He shook his head. I hoped we could avoid this. David, here's what's happening. You'll both sit down and listen. There's still a way out that doesn't end with everyone dying. He aimed at Rachel. Starting with her daughter. Hold up. Are you still with me? Drop a comment right now with shocked, if you didn't see that coming. And if you're loving this story, share it with your friends who love plot twists. Let's see how many people we can surprise today. James's most trusted employee is a monster. With a gun pointed at them and Emma's life hanging in the balance, can James find a way to save them all? The shocking truth is just beginning. Where is she? Rachel's voice broke. Where's Emma? Safe. For now. David gestured with the gun. Sit. Both of you. They sat at the kitchen island. James's mind raced. David had a gun. David was blocking the only exit. David had been a cop. He knew how to handle hostages. How long? James asked. The trafficking operation? 8 years. Your estate? 5 years, since the day you hired me. David almost smiled. You made it so easy, James. Big property, minimal staff, you barely leave your office. Perfect cover. The bodies. Girls who didn't cooperate, who tried to run or fought back or threatened to talk. He said it so casually. I needed somewhere to store them until I could dispose of them properly. Your walk-in freezer, with Rachel as my unwitting assistant. I didn't know. Rachel's voice cracked. Not at first. I thought the chest freezer was yours. Then I saw, she choked on the words. I saw what was inside. I tried to go to police. That's when he showed me the photo. Emma. In a room. Alive but terrified. Leverage, David said. Every good operation needs leverage. Rachel's daughter was perfect. Kept Rachel compliant for 3 years. James's hands curled into fists. You're a monster. I'm a businessman. There's demand, I provide supply. Girls who won't be missed, runaways, addicts, illegals. I screen them, move them, collect payment. Sometimes they don't work out. That's just logistics. They're human beings. They're inventory. David's eyes were flat. And right now you two are a problem that needs solving. Rachel lunged across the island. Where is my daughter? David didn't flinch. Sit down, or I'll make sure you never see her again. Rachel collapsed back, sobbing. James's mind raced. The police weren't coming. David hadn't called them. No one knew what was happening. His phone was upstairs. Rachel's was in her suite. They were alone with a serial killer who had nothing to lose. What do you want? James asked. Money. Lots of it. Untraceable accounts. And a 12-hour head start. David pulled out a tablet. You're going to transfer $50 million into these accounts. Then Rachel and I are leaving. If you cooperate, I'll tell you where Emma is. If you don't, he shrugged. You'll kill us anyway. Probably. But this way Emma lives. Isn't that what you want, Rachel? Rachel's hands shook. You're lying. You'll kill her too. Maybe. Maybe not. But it's the only chance you've got. James looked at the tablet David held out. Bank transfer interface, already loaded with account numbers. David had been planning this. Maybe for weeks. I need my computer, James said. Upstairs. The transfers require biometric authentication. David studied him. We'll all go. Together. And Rachel, if James tries anything, remember, I'm the only one who knows where Emma is. They walked upstairs in silence, David behind them with the gun. James's office was exactly as he'd left it, monitors glowing, code still running, coffee cold in his mug. A different life. An hour ago. Sit, David ordered. Make the transfers. James sat at his desk. His hands hovered over the keyboard. $50 million. His entire liquid net worth. But that wasn't what made him hesitate. On his monitor, minimized in the corner, was his security app. The one that showed every camera on the property, including the one in the kitchen. The one that had been recording everything for the last 30 minutes. James, David's voice held a warning. Don't make me ask twice. James clicked on the security app. The kitchen camera feed expanded. He could see everything, himself and Rachel at the island, David with his gun, the open freezer in the background. And he could see the timestamp, 12:47 a.m. 33 minutes of footage. 33 minutes of David confessing to trafficking, murder, and holding Emma hostage. I'm doing it, James said. He clicked on the bank transfer interface. But his other hand moved to a different window. The one connected to his company's emergency alert system. One click would send the kitchen camera footage to the police. To the FBI. To every law enforcement agency in the state. But David was watching. And David still had the gun. James's finger hovered over the key. Rachel's eyes met his in the monitor's reflection. She saw what he was doing. She gave the tiniest nod. Then she screamed. Emma! Oh God, Emma! She lunged toward the window, pointing at nothing. David spun, gun tracking her movement. James hit the key. Alert sent. Footage uploaded. Law enforcement notified. David spun back, realizing too late. What did you? The sound of sirens cut through the night. Distant but growing closer. David's face went white. He looked at the computer screen, at the alert confirmation, at the police dispatch notification. You just killed her, he whispered. You just killed Emma. No, Rachel said. You did. 4 years ago. But I'm going to find her. And you're going to tell me where. Speech balloon quick pause. Comment below. Do you think Emma is still alive? What would you do in James's situation? If you're on the edge of your seat right now, smash that like and subscribe button so you never miss stories like this. David is captured, but Emma is still missing. With time running out and David refusing to talk, can James use his billion-dollar technology to find her before it's too late? Don't miss the heart-pounding finale. The next 6 hours were chaos. Police flooded the estate. FBI agents arrived. Forensics teams documented the freezer. James and Rachel were separated, questioned again. David Kane was arrested at 1:15 a.m., trying to flee through the service entrance. He didn't resist. Didn't speak. Just stared at Rachel with something like satisfaction. He won't tell them where Emma is, Rachel told James at dawn. They sat in his living room, surrounded by police. He's the only one who knows. If he dies, if he goes to prison, Emma dies too. He'll talk, Detective Sarah Mitchell said. They always do. But David didn't talk. Not to police. Not to FBI. Not to prosecutors who offered deals. He sat in his cell and smiled and said nothing. 3 days passed. Then 4. Rachel stopped sleeping. Stopped eating. James watched her deteriorate, knowing David was winning even from jail. On the 5th day, James made a decision. He called Detective Mitchell. I want to see him. David. I want to talk to him. Mr. Crawford, that's not. He worked for me for 5 years. Maybe he'll talk to me. They arranged it. James sat across from David Kane in a gray interrogation room, separated by bulletproof glass. Hello, James, David said pleasantly. Come to grovel? Come to offer a deal. I'm not talking. I know. That's your leverage. As long as Emma's location dies with you, you have power. James leaned forward. But here's what you don't know. My company specializes in AI security systems. Facial recognition. Location tracking. Pattern analysis. David's smile faltered. I've spent the last 5 days feeding every piece of data about you into my system. Your phone records. Your bank statements. Your property records. Your travel history. Every place you've been in the last 4 years. James pulled out a tablet. The AI has identified 17 potential locations where you could be holding a child. Properties you own, properties owned by associates, remote locations you've visited multiple times. He showed David the screen. Addresses. Satellite photos. Probability percentages. Right now, FBI teams are searching every single location. It's only a matter of time before they find her. James's voice went cold. And when they do, you lose your only leverage. You'll spend the rest of your life in prison, and Emma will testify against you. Her face will be on every news channel. Your victims will be named. Your network will be exposed. You'll die alone and forgotten. David's jaw clenched. Or, James continued, you tell us where she is right now. You cooperate fully. And I'll make sure you're transferred to a federal facility with better conditions. I'll make sure your name stays out of certain news coverage. I'll make sure you have some dignity left. You can't promise that. I'm a billionaire with unlimited legal resources. Yes, I can. Silence. David stared at the tablet, at the addresses, at his entire operation unraveling before his eyes. Location number 4, he finally said. The warehouse in Tacoma. She's in the basement. There's food and water. She's alive. James stood. You better not be lying. I'm not. I always keep my inventory in good condition. James walked out without another word. They found Emma Morrison in a basement room in Tacoma, exactly where David said. 8 years old when she was taken. 12 years old now. Thin. Scared. Traumatized. But alive. Rachel collapsed when she saw her daughter, both of them sobbing, holding each other like they'd never let go. James watched from the doorway, something tight in his chest finally loosening. The FBI found 6 other girls in related locations. David's trafficking network was dismantled. 19 men were arrested. The bodies in James's freezer were identified. 7 young women, all reported missing, all grieving families finally getting answers. David Kane was sentenced to 15 consecutive life terms. No possibility of parole. James Crawford stood in his kitchen, watching Rachel cook. She moved differently now. Lighter. She smiled sometimes. Emma sat at the island doing homework, chattering about school, about friends, about normal 12-year-old things. The chest freezer was gone. The walk-in had been professionally cleaned, though James rarely used it anymore. He'd hired a new chef, but Rachel had asked to stay on part-time. This kitchen saved my daughter, she'd said. I want to remember that, not just the horror. The estate had been transformed. James had converted the West Wing into a safe house for trafficking survivors. Therapists came daily. Support groups met weekly. Emma attended, helping other kids who'd been through similar trauma. James still saw Rachel's face sometimes, that night in the kitchen when she'd whispered, "He has Emma." Still saw David's cold eyes. Still woke up remembering the human hand in that freezer. But he also saw this. Rachel laughing as Emma told a story. Emma playing in the garden, running through sprinklers, being a kid again. Other survivors finding safety in his home. "Mr. Crawford?" Rachel's voice pulled him back. "Dinner's almost ready." "Thanks, Rachel. And please call me James." She smiled. "Thanks, James." He sat at the island next to Emma, who showed him her math homework. Rachel plated food. For a moment, it felt almost normal. Almost like a home. Outside, security cameras watched the perimeter. New staff, carefully vetted, backgrounds triple-checked, went about their duties. Detective Mitchell's card sat on James's desk, her direct number memorized. He'd never be as isolated again. Never as blind to what happened in his own house. The freezer door had taught him that. Some lessons you only learn once. Sometimes the greatest horrors hide in plain sight, behind locked freezers, trusted employees, and the illusion of safety that wealth provides. James Crawford learned that isolation isn't protection, it's blindness. Rachel Morrison learned that survival sometimes means bearing unbearable secrets. And Emma learned that even after 4 years in darkness, hope can still find you. This story reminds us that evil doesn't always look like a monster. Sometimes it looks like someone you trust. Someone who knows your security codes. Someone who's been in your home for years. The real question is, what's hiding in plain sight in your life? Did this story leave you breathless? Share it with someone who loves psychological thrillers that twist and turn until the very last page. Want more stories that will keep you up at night? Subscribe for more gripping tales of suspense, betrayal, and the dark secrets people hide. What did you think of the twist? Drop a comment below. Did you suspect David from the beginning, or did the revelation shock you? And more importantly, what would you have done in James's position? Your next thriller awaits. Hit that follow button and never miss a story that will make your heart race and your mind spin. Remember, the most dangerous person in your life might be the one you trust the most.